Steve Tulipana. I'm a co-owner of Record Bar, Mini Bar, and the Lemonade Bar. Record Bar's been around 17 years. It's a music venue that kind of does more than music, but that's our what we do primarily. Mini Bar is a smaller venue we started 10 years ago. And then Lemonade Park is an outdoor kind of pop-up thing we started during COVID to give musicians something to do outside and to get together safely. Over the last 2 years, we started season 3 in a couple weeks.
Hi, I'm Dr. Adriana Marshall, and I'm from Kansas City, and I'm the district coordinator for Fine Arts and PE for Kansas City Public Schools, K-12. So it's a big job, all 33 schools. And so, you know, I do curriculum and event planning and community partnerships for music and for dance, and for theater, for art, and for health classes and physical education classes.
Hi, my name is Lonnie McFadden. I'm an entertainer. I have a small partnership in a jazz nightclub downtown. And I'm just all about the music. That's why I'm here, I guess.
My name is Mike Carrigan. I'm the horn doctor, and Lonnie's a big deal. I have a musical instrument manufacturing company. I'm the founder and president of BAC Musical Instruments, and very humbled to be privileged to have individuals like Lonnie playing on our equipment here. We work with a lot of colleges and universities all around the country, and we work with musicians throughout the world. And it's fun to be right here. We're located across the street from 12th Street and Vine, in the Jazz District, the historic Jazz District of Kansas City.
I'm Joseph Macklin. I go by Joe Black. I'm a music producer from Kansas City. Born and raised in Wyandotte County. I always got to represent the dot. I have been producing music for a few years now. I've been blessed to work with Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, and Jill Scott. I just felt the need to come back home to bring my talents back home. I am now doing an audio engineering school because I think it's important for our kids to be able to have a true understanding of somebody who's been in the industry, who really knows about being in the studio and being in audio engineering and not just getting in debt, going to school and not knowing when they come and meet me that everything that they learned is kind of, they didn't learn a lot. But I'm here to give back any way I can. I do a couple of events around town, at the Parlor and the Combine and Society. I wanted to be able to create an opportunity for artists to be able to showcase themselves, because we all know that Kansas City has some of the most amazing talent in the world. And I just believe that we just need to shape and create a new narrative for ourselves, because we are doing major things in the city.
All right, I don't know how to follow up after that. My name is Amber Underwood, also known as Fluid Nastiness. I am an educator, band leader, and artist, recording artist. I actually work in the Kansas City Public School District. I'm a band director, 7th and 8th grade at Central Middle School. I've been working in the district for like 10 years, and then got hired to start, once the middle schools opened, and started the band and orchestra programs on the middle school level there. I also have my own private music studio that I've had for over about 15 years now. Students from all over Kansas City, Missouri, Missouri side. I've had that for a while, and then also have my own band performing as a local artist here in Kansas City. Grew up going to the jam session on the Vine and really getting the culture of being a jazz musician. I didn't go to school for jazz, but I would just say I'm more of a street jazzer and learned from the streets and just kind of came up from that and from my elder statements. And so I perform all over Kansas City and different places like that. So.
My name is Danny Powell. I'm president of the Heartland Song Network here in the heartland of Kansas City. And been recently elected to the board of directors for 90.1 FM KKFI Community Radio. The Heart of the Song Network was developed 2 years ago, and our mission is to empower the creation of the song through education, collaboration, and mentorship. And our goal is to work with Anita and other organizations to create a music ecosystem in our heartland so that these musicians, these generative musicians, can live here, thrive here, and get noticed. So that's what we do. In 2 years, we have nearly 350 members of our organization. Artists, musicians, industry people, and we provide a lot of information through webinars and all kinds of activities to help these musicians climb that ladder.
Hi, my name is Anna Marie Chitera, and I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas City Museum. I've been on this project since May of 2014, and so we reopened Corinthian Hall, this building, in October of 2021, and we, after years and years of design and construction, planning exhibits and education programs, so we're really excited to be at this point and getting ready to work on some of the other buildings on the property. We are deeply honored and grateful and proud to be a partner of Creative City Kansas City and the Center for Neighborhoods, working closely with Kathy Persley, who's in the audience, and Dr. Wagner and Anita on the gallery space that's just adjacent to here that really focuses on neighborhood stories. And our main focus at the Kansas City Museum is to tell the untold stories of Kansas City people. And to, we really believe that if you tell the whole story, that can be a very healing process. So we've been working for years with the restorative practices methodology, and we're getting ready to formalize that practice. We'll be working with the International Institute of Restorative Practices next year to really deeply embed restorative practices into our policies and procedures. So I'm really glad. Thank you for having us here today at the Kansas City Museum, and I look forward to more.
I wanted to pay to our friends in the back. It's Jason Piggy, to the right, and Jason Hawkins to the left, and in the back, a good friend of mine, one of the baddest photographers in town, if you do not know that, is George Murphy, and this comprises the team that we pulled together to get this out to a number of cities, a number of people, so you guys are going to be seeing the pictures everywhere, so no full fat. You got something messing around out there, they don't see you, okay? Okay, thanks so much, everyone. You don't know what this means. This is like a culmination of what I've been trying to, and me and Jacob and all the people we've been trying to get to for a number of years. Where do we begin with the music strategy? What do we say about that? Let me tell you a couple of things that the arts and culture as a global industry, $877.8 billion this year, amounting to about 4.5% of the gross domestic product. National Assembly of the Arts agency says, the arts contribute more to the national economy than do construction, transportation, warehousing, travel and tourism, mining, utilities, and agricultural industries. How much of that money do we see? if we're out in creative industries, and that's creative industries across the board, dancing, singing, all the various things that come into that, those things, gastronomy, crafts, and whole lot. Where and how is the money distributed? One of the reasons why we did this, we were hoping a lot of elected officials and things, but they'll get to see it on YouTube, so I'm not really upset about it anymore. But what they need to understand is that to build a strategy, you can't just decide that the people at the top are gonna trickle down stuff and that everybody's gonna get it. That you're gonna put together a bunch of committees. Nobody knows exactly where they're going. But the committees keep going, they have dinner, they have lunch, and they come up with an idea and a focus group, and the next thing you know, that thing sets on itself for the next 10 years. That's not what this is going to be. Building a music strategy is going to be very important. Right now, you guys are literally our lieutenants in this situation. So, with that understanding, what does the numbers say to you? And I'll just go, we'll go left to right on this. What do those numbers I just gave you say to you as it pertains to what you do about Kansas City as a music-based economy?
I think what it says to me right now is that our city doesn't fully embrace arts and culture as an economic driver. And that's really difficult because we spend a lot of time trying to convince people about that value of arts and culture and the economic impact of what we do. And I think that's kind of the biggest roadblock that I see right now. And kind of this not recognizing cultural tourism as a huge part of our society.
Well, I'll expand on your numbers too, to include that there was a study done in 2019, pre-pandemic, for the recording industry of America, and they went across the United States to look at the money value added from music into the economy. They broke it down by states, and a couple of things they found out. Number one, that for every dollar that is spent on music directly, there's another 50 cents that is spent in an adjacent industry. So that's a huge number. The other thing was that in Missouri and Kansas, it's a $3 billion industry, just in Missouri and Kansas. And Kansas City is sitting right in the center of that.
And be on the creative city of music.
And it's got to be a cultural shift. Music in this area is lumped in with the other arts, and it's always on the low side of the arts. It's taken for granted. It needs to be a standalone consideration of art.
I'm gonna come from the artist standpoint. I feel, since I'm in it now, I'm on the street, I'm on the groundwork, I'm a gigging musician, that growing up here, I knew that jazz was such a big part of history, and I'm a musician here, but now in it, I don't feel like I don't want to say they, but my city appreciates what I'm giving back to the city, especially if I've grown up here and I've studied here and I've listened and got all of my knowledge from like the elder statesmen and even looking up to Lonnie and stuff like that. And so I'm at some of these places here in Kansas City, and I feel like I should be more, not as struggling, I guess. And there should be more people coming out to what we do and showing on, when you come into Kansas City, who are our jazz musicians here in Kansas City? How has the genre expanded from swing? We are expanding on the genre that we've kind of began here. So, but nobody knows, and unless you might be an educator, or the schools might come, but even just my people, and so that's how I feel.
As a producer.
You want me to speak honest? Well, this is the thing. Growing up in Kansas, I had to move to LA to go make what I want to happen. But I tell this story all the time. I was doing music. My mother, she grew up 9 to 5. That's what my grandfather instilled in them. 9 to 5, you work a job, this is what you do. Music was in my heart. I said, Mom, this is what God told me I need to do. Just trust in me. I was going broke. She didn't understand. She said, baby, you just don't want to get a job. I said, Mom, I know this is going to make it happen. Until I signed my first deal, it changed her perception of what she had. She was able, I had the checks mailed to her house on purpose. So she can open it up and see what the creativity that was within her that she passed down to me can open up. And she said to me, I'll bring tears to my eyes, but she says to me, baby, you got me dreaming again. Right? So it's that thing. We come in Kansas City, we don't understand that this is a $1 billion export. Music is a $1 billion export. And if there's $1 billion out there, that means that if I can make 100,000 in Kansas City, I'm thriving, right? So I think we need to change the mindset of, just the 9 to 5. And there are working musicians that should be able to make a living and be able to say, I provide for my family just doing what I love to do.
As an entrepreneur.
Yeah, well, I can feed off of that, and I go back to education. I see some of my personal experiences in places like New Orleans with these young, students that are always exposed to live music in their neighborhoods. They're always exposed, and that exposure is what really seeds the love and passion and desire for music. I also see that music is, just like everything, music is subjective, but I think we can all agree that music has the power to really get in and make an effect on every human. It's probably the most impressive thing. So when you have something like that, you have history like we have in this city, I would suggest, my personal opinion is that this city does not support the music the way that it should in the schools. I think having music accessible is a responsibility of the city. I think the city, that will help the musicians that are in the city. It'll help inspire kids, and we all get activated by different things. Some students are not the best at reading a book. Some people are best being shown something to do. And music is one of those things that has the power to connect with students where maybe math and other things are not their strong suit. I think it's a disservice that the schools don't have more access, have more support for instruments, for music education. We look at a band room and we sometimes see 50, 60, 70 kids with one band director with no assistant. Right? I mean, that happens everywhere. It's not an exclusive issue to Kansas City, obviously. This is something that I see all over the country. But what Kansas City is uniquely positioned to do is, with its history and being the only city of music, we are empowered with an opportunity, I think. And I hope that the city gets behind that and supports education and then supports the music, because that's the culture.
Melanie, we go back. I ain't gonna say. We do. In 1972, the union, the American Federation of Musicians, consolidated in Kansas City. And the white union joined the black union, 34, 627. You were one of the first to join the new desegregated union. In that aspect, what did you see happen prior to and after desegregation? I'm really interested in hearing you say that.
Well, first of all, I'm hearing everything that everybody is saying, and before we even came up here, they were talking about the things that other cities have, that distinguish them. Here in Kansas City, I feel like it's been by design, but for years, everything was erased. Amber and people their age, they see the jazz district, and it's like, it's like part of the city. But I grew up with all of that. There was no jazz district. Right. It was totally erased. Everything in like you guys are talking about tearing down buildings and things like that, trying to preserve them. I think this is great, because I think the only thing that distinguishes us for as tourist dollars that go to New Orleans and go to Memphis and places like that is the fact that they embraced who they are. We tried to erase who we are. And the thing that has happened that we're playing catch up, and we should be on the forefront. So I'm glad that you guys are doing the things that you're doing, and I just stay in my lane. I'm an entertainer. I'm kind of like a conduit between Lester Young and Hot Lips Page and them to the people that are stretching the genre. I just stay in my lane, and I hope that I have something to contribute to pass the DNA on. But yeah, when I first joined the union, I mean, I couldn't play on the plaza, unless I would have been the black guy with a white band. But it's like I've seen this city take on a lot of changes, and a lot of the changes due to efforts like yourself and Mike moving his company here, the Blues Society, the Jazz Ambassador. It all comes together, and if all of us will do our part and work together, I mean, I don't think it should be the Mutual Musicians Foundation and the Jazz Museum and then the Blues Society until we all embrace what we do, the producers, the new musicians, God, I can't even say it, elder statesmen. But until we all embrace what everybody brings to the table, I think that's when we'll understand that, because we have such a great history and such a great heritage and such an authentic, we should be at the table. Like you've said this for years, and I've been saying it. It's like we deserve, when you think of the four cornerstones of jazz, the fact that we have not gotten the tourist dollars and putting the attention on it that New Orleans, that's the only difference. They embraced who they were, but I'm off my soapbox.
We'll stay on that. Doctor, I thank you very much. Those of you who don't know, Betty Miller was your aunt. That's jazz royalty. That's jazz royalty in this room. I want to let people know that. Because as one of the people who actually saw her perform, I was like, when I found that out, I thought, so you have the responsibility of a public school system that is steadily losing dollars, steadily losing people, steadily losing the embrace that I was told by one of the older musicians. There was no need of the American Federation of Musicians in New York. There was no need for them to go and look for young musicians because it was always taught in the schools. Okay, there was a lineage that was passed down from kindergarten all the way up. So by the time you got to be 15, 16 years old, you had established yourself in a band, you were going somewhere, you were on a music scholarship, you had something. You are a performer, you come from a legacy, you see this as a black woman in America. What those little numbers I just said tell you about what we need to do?
What's interesting is I lived in New Orleans for 7 years. I basically left Kansas City at 18 and got a music scholarship, and I moved to New Orleans. And there, yes, it was a lot to learn about just being brown, being African American, living in New Orleans, trying to build my musicianship. And I started teaching in 2003. And my job was to teach kindergarten violin.
Oh my God.
Okay, so.
Oh my
I thought at the end I was going to need new teeth. Back molars just cracking every day. Little Tiny holding that bowl like a chili spoon. But I think, so I took what I received as in music in Kansas City. So I actually was introduced to the viola in 3rd grade in the Kansas City Public Schools at a school called Musuem. And it was a desegregated magnet school. I still have my letter of acceptance. And at this school, I had private viola lessons, keyboard lessons, I took dance classes, and it was just so wonderful. But then like the next year we moved to like South Kansas City, we moved to the suburbs, and so that's kind of when I started like traditional, orchestra and things of that sort. But what I knew for me as a black woman, I wasn't going to get the education that I deserved being in Missouri. I needed to go to a HBCU. I need to go somewhere where I was going to be celebrated for being black. And someone was going to nurture me, and they were not going to look down on any type of, deficiencies I had. They're just going to nurture me and help me to make sure I get to where I need to be. So I graduated from Xavier. I went to the Peabody Conservatory, and I got my PhD in music education at University of Florida. And so, what I see is I'm still a Wallbashian. I grew up on Wabash, so I'm a Wallbashian, not a Kardashian. But I want to give my students, I want to give them those opportunities. And Amber,
She's doing a great job.
Works every day for the kids. And I do understand where people are saying, well, what happened? I remember reading about it too. Can you imagine? I'm in different cities building up string programs and then listening to Kansas City news about what was happening here. And when you want to talk about the funding, well, we have these charter schools that we have to share these students with, but which charter schools offer kids fine arts? None of them, right? But we do, right? I taught band and orchestra at Northeast Middle School, had a 90-piece band, 90-piece orchestra. I mean, maybe we don't get the coverage, but we do have band, orchestra, and choir, and we have ballet classes, we have African drumming classes, we have African art classes, we have ceramics, we have all that stuff in Kansas City Public Schools.
Remind me to get back to that, because I think someone needs to do a report card on some of these charter schools about what they lack before they start talking about it.
Please talk to Dr. Bedell about that.
Okay, oh yeah, report card needs to be done, because I've been in a few of them thinking, do you guys ever see the light of day? You never even come out of here.
You know what, and I understand that. If you grew up in the Kansas City Public Schools and you did not get the education that you thought, and so maybe you think, I'm not going to put my kids in those schools. I'm going to put them in the charter schools because I think that's a better alternative. Without really understanding what a public education does for you and how it's governed. We're in the schools every day as curriculum coordinators to make sure there is a viable curriculum, that kids are making the standards, or what we need to do to make sure these kids do rise up to grade level and beyond. And that's our job.
And Steve.
I'm
The
done.
entrepreneur, the venue owner, those numbers we gave just not too long ago, what do they mean to the venue owner? What does that mean?
I'd love to see, I guess you gave a little bit about what Kansas City or Missouri and Kansas brings, but I'd love to see that kind of a report card economically. What are we contributing, and what? I'd be curious about it, that's all. But something to the tourism side of it I was thinking about. I see people come here all the time for shows, come to our venue. I see on the back end, who's people I'm driving 8 hours to come see the show, or I'm coming 6 hours. When I was young, we would go to Chicago to see shows because it wouldn't come here, or we would go to Minneapolis maybe. But we were stuff wouldn't come. And then when we first started, stuff would only come on Tuesdays or Mondays, or because where we're at in the drives. And I understand you want to be in the bigger markets on the weekends. That's changed in the 10 years that we've been open. I've seen it change a lot. I want to see it keep changing. So whether that means what do we do with, how do we get our the awareness through the tourism? Do we get help through Kansas City's tourist board, or is there a tourist board? I don't know. I know there's Visit KC, but how does that? I'm curious to see how they go. All this is There's a lot of, everything you're doing is, I'm like, all of you. Wow. I'm getting educated.
Well,
here,
we're
you
the
know?
street team.
Yeah. I love it.
It's getting ready to be a street
Stuff that,
team.
you know, we just kind of head down, do what we do, and it's like, this is really awesome. You know?
But one more note. But as a venue owner, COVID hit you hard. We had some recovery ideas. You just mentioned Visit KC. What do they do? You know, because there's still a membership organization. You still have, it's a pay to play.
Right,
Let's
right.
just put it that way. Okay. What benefit can you still get? Because other convention and visitors bureaus across the nation have quit paid services because everybody needs to be on board. Okay, what do you think is, have you been able to benefit from that situation at all?
We're not involved in Visit KC. I just brought it up because it's something I was aware of. But I've always wondered, like, we never paid for that stuff. You know?
Well,
So,
nobody does.
Yeah.
Last 20 years, it has been like an obsolete way of looking at
yeah.
visitor. You know, you pay for a membership and then they bring people to you. That is a very, very exclusive way of trying to bring money into your city when you only deal with people who pay you.
Right.
You know, it's almost like, hey, pay me, I'll pay your record.
Mhm.
You know, so we're not trying to do that anymore. Okay, in 2018, we went a step further at Unesco and we went to the federal government and told them, hey, musicians need an apprenticeship. Come to find out, there was no such thing as a musician's apprenticeship in the United States. So it took us 3.5 years to convince the Department of Labor that musicians was an apprenticeable profession. This year, June, will be the first year that we introduced the American Music Apprenticeship Program at the Boys and Girls Club in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay, where we will be training children to understand that you are going to be a professional musician. There is a number of things that you do to become a professional musician. Okay, this is not, we're getting pushback from conservatories. Go there. You know what that's about. But as a gigging musician, okay, and I'm just gonna go random here. As a gigging musician, what do you think that an apprenticeship would do for the future of the education in music, particularly you, Amber?
Well, I do feel like it'll expose children to a number of things. It really depends on how that apprenticeship is set up. So I feel like it can go two different ways, maybe the professional way track or the educational track. Say that kid wants to, you know, get all those materials that they need to be like a recording artist or maybe a graphic artist or whatever. So you should be bringing in those people that are in that field and really surrounding them, putting their arms around and building up that child to be ready to be a professional artist. Or if you want to go in the educational route, you know, maybe you want to be a professor of music or whatever. But whatever it is, it should be molding that child and being ready to be a professional in the fine arts, and not just in their specialty, but also teaching in the business side, teaching them how to market themselves, like the whole thing. I didn't get that. I went to a conservatory, and so I learned that on the way.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have colleagues asking like, "Hey, Amber, can you come and speak about, you know, this, because I didn't get this in my music program, or I didn't get that." So I think it should grab all of those tools, bringing in professionals, bringing people like Joe or Adriana, and speaking to those kids and really have them hands-on experience with that. I mean, I wish I had something like that. My apprenticeship is my mentors, you know, so I had to reach out to certain people that I admire, like my mentor, God rest his soul, was Horace Washington, or you know, Hollenshed, and you know, all these people that are Kansas City based, and just having to be like, can you teach me that, just being in their face, and like, or Craig Lindsay,
Yeah.
that's one of our mentors, and I don't know if you know that name, but he is a pillar in Kansas City, and he has I mean, he has gold, silver plaques all over of all of the people, and so these are the things that these kids need to learn about and see. And so I think an apprenticeship program is highly needed, and I will not get into the conversation of getting into music schools or conservatories.
Mike, you know, we talk about this.
Yeah, and I think that's some interesting. I had all sorts of thoughts going through my head just then. But music education, education in general, like we're talking about, people connect with different things in different ways. So there's a wide spectrum of things where conservatories and music schools are really, really important. You know, if you're going to learn how to be an educator, you need that guidance. But there are certainly musicians that, if they had an opportunity for an apprentice program, it may be a lot more applicable for them in their journey to become a master of the craft. And music is kind of funny. We give tours all the time, and I always ask kids, you know, what professional jobs are there out there that involve music? And so the first thing is you could be a professional musician. Yeah, all right. What else? Well, you could be a music educator. You know, there are band directors standing behind them. What else? Then they're in a factory, so the smart Alex says, well, you can make instruments. Yes, you can make instruments. You're at a factory right now. But there's so many other things. You got lighting, you got sound recording and audio engineering. You've got just the support. I say, yeah, the what they're wearing, how they look, their brand, the marketing, the selling of the band, the selling of the instruments, the selling of the microphones, the developing of the microphones, the audio software. If you're into software, there's just so many different things that you can do that involve music that are really, at the end of the day, a skill. You can go to any, you know, school, the best, finest in the world, and come out of there, and maybe you can play every single scale. But Bobby Watson will tell you, this is a bird thing, is that you need to have a deep relationship with your instrument. You have to have a deep relationship with the music, and then you have to have a relationship with yourself and something to say. And with an apprentice program, you can absolutely learn all of those things, and that's the only thing you can do to become a master. Not everybody possesses that, and to become a master craftsman, you start as an apprentice. So I think it's very applicable, and I think it will be. I think down the road people are going to look back and say, "Wow, you know, we don't know how to use it yet. We're learning. This is going to be the first year. I think this thing is going to be honed over the years." And looking back, I think this is going to be a very significant moment for the music industry.
Can I throw just one more tidbit in there? So if you're an educator, what do? You have a semester of student teaching, or if you're in maybe another career field that you normally have some type of period where you are under a mentor or something like that. And so why don't we not have that for what we do? You know, and that skill. If you're going to be an esthetician or whatever, that's a skill, or a carpenter, that's a skill. They're under some type of apprenticeship to learn that skill. And so it's the same thing. And so it's definitely needed, and I do agree.
Well, it took us 14 tries with the Department of Labor in 3.5 years to convince them that this is a skill. Being a musician is a skill. And you can turn around and you have levels that you go through, you have master craftsmen you can go to, you have apprenticeship, you have on-the-job training, you got all of those things. It took us 3.5 years and 14 tries. Wow. So it's like, well, I'm here and I ain't got nowhere else to go. So this question is for Steve and for Danny, because you guys have done this from another business. With infrastructure dollars being distributed, you guys hear about all the infrastructure dollars, you know. Oh, you do roads, we know that. Okay, good. Do you think our elected officials understand or see music as an infrastructure? You have venues, you have various, but you know, get ready, and I've known you for years, so I'm trying
Political.
You know, political, exactly. Do you think they see music as infrastructure?
I don't believe so, no. I think they see it as just a place to get sales tax.
That's as honest as it goes.
That's it. I mean, but is it?
Music is not even on the radar. Not. I mean, in other areas it is. But in this area, music is not even on the radar. As I said, it's lumped in with the other arts as far as a structural analysis is concerned. It's very taken for granted. It's everybody looks to 18th and Vine, and which is the Mecca, and yet, there's all this other work out here that's being done with these generative artists. This young man had to leave to learn his business craft of his music. And, we did a survey in 2020 of our membership and had a really good response. And 70% of the respondents said they were professional musicians. Only 17% did it full time.
Wow.
And at the end of that survey, we asked them their needs. Do you need publishing? Do you need this? Do you need that? Do you need this? All the way down the line. And what we discovered is that the respondents, and I'm excluding the musicians that I'm sitting with here, they're world-class musicians and have a first-grade education of the business.
That's good.
Says a lot.
And so a part of that, we started having these discussions, and I know Patrick and Kelly, they were part of this, about things like genre segregation in the community. One genre not speaking to the other, that it's all, and through those conversations, it all came down to one focus, is that there is nobody up here that's champion for everybody.
Amen.
And that was the culmination of the discussion. We did some programs during the pandemic where and I'll just give you one instance, where we had people sign up and we were doing COVID collaborations, and we were having songwriters write songs together. They signed up, and we're multi-genre. We got all genres in our organization. And we were teaming up people that didn't know each other from different genres. And the example I will give you is we had one young rap artist that we put together with a 60-some-year-old country songwriter. And the country songwriter contacted us and said, "Are you crazy? What are you doing here? Why would you put me with this person?" They wrote a song, one of the best songs I've ever heard. And since that time, they've become best friends, and they're doing an album together. So,
Let me tell you, we went to, Jacob and I, we have an international award, UNESCO does, and we honored a group called Gangsta Grass. If you don't know them, look them up. Gangsta Grass, a bluegrass and hip hop fusion group who are cold. Absolutely cold. And traveling the world doing bluegrass. Gangsta Grass is what they call themselves. Now, for the last 4 years, we at UNESCO have based our research and implementation strategies for enhanced economic development and our tremendous music history in jazz, or the music, as it goes. We did an online conference last year, and this question is for Anne Marie and anybody else who wants to jump in, right? But last year we did an online conference based on concentrating from recovery from COVID. This has been something that within the last 100 years has completely changed the entire world. Okay, the last time this happened, it was 1918, 1917. Okay, so 100 years later, we're faced with this thing that kept everybody inside, it's destroyed mental health and various things. But we put together a program to talk about we can recover. And we did these 4 things: education, preservation, tourism, and entertainment. And this building singularly, and this crew here at the Kansas City Jazz Museum has redefined what museum is in the United States. Okay, museum is no longer the place that you go that they follow you around and tell you don't touch. Okay, museum is no longer the place where you can go and you have artifacts that were stolen from some Egyptian tombs 400 years ago and nobody said anything about it. Displaying cultural artifacts that nobody gave you permission to do.
You know, these are the things that have redefined. The Kansas City Museum is probably at the forefront of this development of what museum is today. And because of that, how important is preservation to this conversation that we're talking about now, Anna Marie?
It's incredibly important. I mean, and we, we focus on the preservation of stories, the preservation of heritage and culture. And the way that I think we've been able to really be successful at reopening this building in particular is by bringing many people together, many perspectives, people at the table working together on content for the exhibits, on programs. Glenn North is in the audience, poet, artist, our director of inclusive learning and creative impact, recognizing the importance of artists in Kansas City's history and preservation, and actually ensuring that artists have a seat at the table, including, artists of every discipline, including musicians. I agree with you that Kansas City needs a separate music strategy. We continue to create these arts and culture strategic plans. I think there might be another one in process. We collect data, we figure out where all the artists are, and then nothing happens.
Right.
And meanwhile, in New York City, they have a Creatives Rebuild New York City. $125 million going into the city of New York, paying artists to rebuild the city after COVID. We can completely do this here in Kansas City. We can restore and preserve our heritage, but we have to completely recognize the importance of creatives to this city. Kansas City has always been an international city. We don't need to debut it. Every time we turn around and act like nobody in the world knows what Kansas City is. Right. And to really find a way to come together, but that's hard. We see it in the arts and culture sector. We see it in the museum sector. There's kind of this myth that there isn't enough money to go around.
Right.
Yeah.
And that there's constant competition, and that actually doesn't exist. And I think we have to get to a place where, this is very powerful, everybody coming together. And this is sometimes what is very feared.
Yes.
By those who want to polarize and pit institutions and individuals against one another for a political agenda or, some other, desire. So I think when we think about preservation, it has to start with us, the preservation of our talents and our creativity, and the preservation of ensuring that we come together as a community.
Absolutely.
I think that someone in the industry, you take a lot of meetings, and a guy used to tell me, I'm tired of taking a meeting about the meeting. And that's what Kansas City does. And to me, I feel like we're having a meeting about the meeting with people that don't even know what we're really meeting about. And so now you have a whole bunch of people telling us what musicians, and they haven't even taken the time to develop their craft. They're just saying it could be money in this for someone, or this looks good on paper, and they're not even inviting us in to have the meeting. And so so we have a lot of people that are misplaced, and now we're not understanding why we don't have funds for this, and we don't have funds for this, and then now you have the community of musicians fighting for jobs. And we don't realize, and one thing I will say about LA, I learned to collaborate. Collaboration has been one of the biggest things for my life And so now I'm trying to reach people, but the more I reach for people, it's like they think that I'm trying to take something from them.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to say, here's a resource that I may have. Let me help you. You can help me. I'm going to learn from you. You can learn from me. We can all learn from each other. Now we have a melting pot of amazing things happening, and then we can start rebuilding our city together. But we're so divisive because we are fighting over crumbs, and there's billions of dollars out there for us, and we're fighting over $100 gigs.
There are billions of dollars because tourism is so important to this. Whenever I see money being attacked from the culture and the arts and various things in Kansas City, and somebody say, well, we need that budget, so we need that money out of that pot.
Mm-hmm.
They always come for the people who are concentrating on creativity.
Mm-hmm.
They come for their money first, okay? Because they don't have time to fight you. Okay, we don't have time to fight you. We got to get out here. We got children to train. We've got businesses to take care of. We got stuff to take care of. But if we could tap into this $877 billion out here, who'd have to fight another person for another daggone thing if we got 1% of it?
Can I say this
Nobody.
I'll say this last thing. With my audio engineering class, I've been out of school since 1999. I graduated in 1999. I go back home to say, hey, I want to give this back. And this is exactly what you're saying. It's now where the community college that's in my hometown haven't thought of doing anything for the kids in the community. Now I bring a program and I present it to them. Now they're saying, well, we can partner with you to do this. And I'm like, where were y'all in 1999? Because I've been gone out of high school in the District 500 area since 1999. You guys wasn't proactive to create a program, and now someone's trying to come and it's about the dollar. I'm like, it ain't about the dollar for me. It's about these kids that want to do something that they're passionate about, and I'm watching it change their life. I'm watching how they're looking at me and how they say, how did you do it? And I just took a chance. And so now we have, it's just, I want people that are creative to be able to step into place and be in the arena and really touch other people instead of it being about a dollar that they see they can make, or this program's going to bring in and we can penny pitch here, we're going to get this there. It's like, no, it's about the kids.
Right.
You know, so.
And I would say that a lot of it is simple for an entity like the city of Kansas City. It's marketing dollars.
Yeah.
It's strictly a marketing dollars that, and I ran political campaigns for a long time, and it was the old adage, all politics are local, all music is local.
Yeah.
It's all local. It's these people right here. And if the city of Kansas City and other entities would just use marketing dollars to market that, then this young man and this young lady can go do their thing and create what they're going to create.
Yeah.
Now, Lonnie, entertainment. When we talk about this, what we're talking about now, you found a way to make a way, because somebody noticed, and Lonnie's Reno, which is my favorite date night, if you have never been, if you have never been, I suggest you do it. Because when my husband, we're very old, when we decided we wanted to go out, it's like, well, what are we going to do? I'm like, well, get out of here. I'm going down to the Ambassador. I'm going to see my show. I'm going to have a glass of wine. I'm going to eat good, and I'm going to watch live. In the entertainment, what we're doing, how can we get back to pure entertainment?
Wow.
I know. Because everybody out here, the musicians I listen to, they want to take it to the next level. They got these ideas and stuff. But some of them are the most boring children I've ever seen in my life. They get up there and they can play. It's like I can sing, but I can't sing. I can hold a note, but I can't sing. I'm not Chaka Khan. So what is purest of entertainment gonna get us in this music strategy?
Wow.
Because in my eyes, that's who you are.
Okay, well, thank you. And I'm going to have to go. I'm glad you asked me this. Well, first of all, I want to say that I think that we all need to realize that music is a commodity, and it's a very valuable commodity, and it's a commodity that there are a lot of dollars, like you said, billions of dollars out there for it. Now, when it comes to the musician or entertainer or whatever, I learned the hard way. I mean, I went through my time when I was, I just thought it was about me doing something that's extra intricate or playing the most difficult stuff, and it was basically me. Well, I can't use that word, but it was basically me just satisfying me. Now, when in what I learned, like I said, the hard way, when you're 16 years old and you go to a city and they hire you to pack their club or whatever, and you get there Wednesday, and after the people see about you after the hype, and then you got the crowd, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday we got fired. And that happened a couple of places we went, because back when I was growing up, we couldn't even play at a lot of places here in Kansas City, so we had to go to Minneapolis and anyway, bottom line is this. I think the average musician uses lingo like they don't support us or they don't support the arts. I learned at an early age that what I do has to serve you. It has to be something. I mean, I don't go to Quick Trip to support their gas pumps. I buy a product that helps my car to move, and I want to get it. I use it. I mean, I know this is like first grade logic, but that's how I think. And as an entertainer, I think that people don't come here to support me. I think they're in here because, like Anita said, she wants to have a good date night. She likes Lonnie, but if I'm not going to help her to have a good date night, it's no reason to go see Lonnie. And so I always approach it, and ever since I was 17 years old and started getting fired, and I decided I don't want to be fired. I want to make that's another thing. I approach this as I want to make a live. That's why I always say God's so good to me. I'm a full-time musician. I make an okay living, and that's what I always wanted to do, make a living. Now, if you just are we all got different lanes. If you are just an artist and you just want to create, but then even you as an artist you have to ask yourself, even though I can't use that word that some of y'all know where I'm going, you have to ask yourself, are you just doing something to build your ego, or are you really being creative? Because there's a difference. Thank you. I mean, because I'm not trying to step on anybody. I just think that art for the sake of being artistic is garbage. I think if it's something that comes from inside you, regardless if it has a dollar value or anything, it will eventually be recognized. You can't deny what's real. Eventually, you gotta bow down to Miles Davis or Charlie Parker or Picasso. It don't matter if you get your dues right then, but when it comes from something deep inside, in me, my art is to try to figure out how. I mean, I don't come to the stage with a set list and that's it. I come to the stage with a set list and I don't play anything on it. I basically, I'm trying to read the room. It's like, a lot of people will say, you got to know the room. I can't come here and just play John Coltrane, and I know that I would have a better response if I played My Girl. And I see you all doing that. Then, you know what? Then now you all understand that we here for the same thing. You might let me slip in a little John Coltrane letters. Hey, I like that. But I think it's, again, I don't want to be too wordy, but since you asked me as an entertainer, that's my thought process. And back to the mentoring thing, I remember years ago, Gerald Dunn talked to me, meeting for the meeting. We never did make it happen, but after he thought about what my thought process and how my brother and I would pack the Blue Room, and he would listen to the way I think, he said, you need to teach that. And I
was going to say, there's an apprenticeship program.
Master crafted
But that is what I think. I think that that because I did learn the hard way. When you get stranded in the city and you're sleeping in somebody's basement, it's a little bit different than if you're able to just be at home with mama and say, well, I'm not gonna play anything but John Coltrane. It's a whole different. It's a different. So you figure it out. Either I want to do a day job and I want to just play what I want to play, or I want to be a full-time entertainer. And my lane, like I said, it's the natural lane for me. I'm about as Kansas City as you're gonna get. Anita, ever since I was a teenager, I've been preaching the Kansas City thing. When there was no jazz district, I was always talking about Hot Lips Page, Charlie Parker, Lester Young, Ben Webster, Mary Lou Williams. All these people have been a part of my vocabulary because of my father mentoring me. Again, the apprentice thing. You got to, that's so essential. And I've been too wordy, but I'm sorry if I
No,
got
I'm
that.
just glad this is on tape,
Yeah.
because this is the kind of thing that you can't, Anyway, I know you said you had to go and you just.
Yeah, I gotta go in about 10 minutes.
Okay,
I
great.
apologize, you guys.
I've got one really quote-loaded question for everybody, and we'll start to left here again. Does anyone see how race plays a role in how we are how the economics of the music is going in this city? And is this something we need to address?
I mean, I think you continually have to address it, but we've always tried to be multi-genre at Record Bar. Like, we do all kinds of stuff all the time. And I mean, I could say economically, I mean, the shows that deliver are the shows that are more diverse, the shows that are more that people remember and bring more of our community together. Those are the shows that are more diverse. I appreciate that. I love it. I think Kansas City. For me, I feel like I don't know if it's a movement, but like, I mean, you go to the Ship, it's pretty diverse. I think these are places that everybody has to be aware of and do it, but I think it comes natural too. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but.
Well, from the perspective, I'm not trying to pin anything down. I'm just, this is one of the most diverse groups we're going to get. Next.
Music is a luxury. I mean, especially if you think about the price of an instrument, the price of private lessons, the price to go to Kaufman, the price to go to music camp. It's just so expensive. It's exclusive at this point. And that is what, goes into, factoring for children to be able to do it. Even going into music is a luxury, right? Because I went to a college where it was, med school type stuff. And I wanted to be a musician. People are like, why would you want to do that? You're not going to make a lot of money, because, so it's a luxury to doing what we're doing, right? And so, when you think about the younger generations, like, how do we, inspire them to do something that just seems so exclusive that no one wants them to do it, right? And so I started a nonprofit called Marshall Music Foundation, and we had a camp, an all-girls fine arts camp. And I took the kids from Kansas City Public Schools, and the camp was housed at St. Teresa's. And these girls were looking around at this beautiful campus and the chef in the kitchen and the statues and, just wanting to be there and wanting to see that and, playing in the concert hall, the lights work, right? Which, is just something that we're having some issues with some of our theaters. But, I do see in the Kansas City Public Schools we have spent over $500,000 in the last few months on instruments. We have spent about $200,000 on music technology. We actually have music technology classes, and our students are learning how to produce music. They're learning how to do podcasts. We are in the process of building out music studios. We're going to start having students take piano in 3rd grade, so we have kids who can't audition because they'll be music literate. But that's what we're trying to do in our district for our kids. So to give them an equitable music education, right? Because we might not have children who can afford to rent instruments and to buy the books. And in our district, we try to provide those things for them. So it's not such a luxury.
Line 34,627. If you ever see a musicians union that has two numbers, 34 like here locally, one used to be what they called the colored musicians union, which usually comes second, and the first one was the white musicians union. And in 1972, they were all ordered to desegregate. From the time they were ordered to desegregate until now, what happened to the presence of the black representation in unions?
Oh, wow.
Going to the question of race.
Well, the first thing is that there almost is no musicians union in most cities now, and here in Kansas City, it's not even relevant. I mean, if they do, wow, that's such an interesting question. Because if they do have any relevance, it would pertain to traveling artists that may come here and go to play at Starlight Theater or at the Kaufman Center, and they pick up a few musicians. And if you're in the union, which most of us are not anymore, but if you're, oh God, this you going deep to that, because if you're a part of this, again, we talk about an exclusive group when it shouldn't be like that. But like she said, 34,627, and then when things started to dissolve for us, the importance of the union, then you basically just had a select number of people that all of the unionized gigs would go to.
Right.
And yeah, that's a whole different thing right
One
there.
we'll address very soon.
Yeah.
Very, very soon, because that is a specific part of what has happened to jazz music, jazz venues, rock and roll, country western, you name it, what has happened with the lack of representation from a 109-year-old organization called the American Federation of Musicians. But if you're going to be a traveling musician internationally, you must belong to a union like the International Brotherhood of Musicians and various things like that, a lot of us do not know. So, you know, I hear a lot of these young cats say, yeah, we get ready to go to France. Well, you can only stay there 3 months because they're going to kick you out because you don't belong to the union. What happened to that? We did get to the bottom of that. That is another program that we will be doing soon. But Mike, you and I have talked about the opportunities in this. What do you think about how race plays a role with what we're doing?
I would echo the inequity. You know, music is a luxury. It requires money and funding. And while, for example, while the district is providing instruments, which is great, do the kids have access to after-school lessons?
Mm-hmm. Maybe
They don't have the opportunity for having a parent bring them to lessons. So now music lessons is something that's not available to them. I brought my son recently on his 12th birthday to hear Lonnie, which is amazing. I think more parents need to bring kids out to live music, but is it accessible to bring musicians in the city? Are there venues that are available for kids at night? You know, maybe there needs to be venues in the daytime that make it more accessible for kids, again, to inspire them. So I come back to, it all comes down to, it's not equitable. I see that.
Yeah.
Lonnie said something and Amber said something. It's about having to be so good that they can't tell you no. But even then, it's just like I have to live up to high expectations for you to even let me in your venue. And so now I'm finding myself having to be so solid that all the venues that they tell us that you can't get in, I'm like, I'm gonna be so good that they have to let me in the venue. You know, and it's kind of one of those things, and that is me being blessed because I had a mentor by the name of Craig Lindsay who taught me, Joe, there's 8 ways to make music in the music industry. You just don't have to do, but you got to be great, be good. They come from a different era. Lonnie, it was about being precise. It was about being on point, knowing your cues, knowing your key. they were so good at what they do that people just couldn't. You can't tell Lonnie, you know,
Oh.
he's that good. You know, you're not going to tell him no to come in your establishment because he's going to bring in the people. But everybody don't have that luxury, and so there is an imbalance. And so just opening up more opportunities and some doors that we haven't been able to get into. And if you do get into those doors, you just have to have a level of greatness that like, okay, we have to. And that's a good thing as well too, but it has to be something where it's like, oh, let's give people a shot. You know, let's let people in and include them as well.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I come from a different standpoint just because I'm not a male jazz musician. I come from a minority black woman, and so my training started in classical music. I was always known as the black flute player, or you know, you always knew who I was because I was the only one, and then transferred over to jazz. But it was difficult just to be recognized as just not a gimmick, I guess, and really having to prove on the jam session that I can play just as well as any of these other male musicians up here. I was always thought of as the singer, nothing against singers, but we don't have a lot of female or girls on the instrumental side. They might take music in school, but where are they on the professional level? If you go to a concert, I'm looking behind the singer, like who's playing the drum, who, you know, it's mostly male. And so I knew I wanted to change that. And then when I got to a professional level and then started knocking on the doors of like, hey, can you hire me? Like, can I perform here? Can I perform at the Blue Room? Can I, you know, and it was just like, you know, and today it's still a struggle. And I don't know if it has to do with my race, my gender, or my ability. But I do feel like there are still a lot of doors, at least for me, to knock down, you know. And another thing, a lot of people say about collaboration. I think I've gotten to be in different arenas because I have collaborated with different genres and coming in and doing that and really creating my own lane because I can rely on, the music venues. Like, and then I'm like, well, why am I not seeing more of me at the Kaufman Performing Arts Center? Or why is it that, you know, they have a show, but they're not grabbing the locals to open up the show? I am just as qualified. You know, my dad always said, if you're going to go into music, make sure you have all of the areas. So I got a degree in education and arts administration and music business and teaching. And so you can't deny me of that, but I'm also a skilled player. And so it's just kind of like, who else do I have to show or prove that I am worthy to, number one, be in this establishment, but worthy that what I have to say through my instrument is what it needs to be heard. So, you know, it could be a number of things, you know, and it's still a fight today. And then being acknowledged as a band leader. I'm just saying that I am one of the only, I don't want to say only, but first of all, minority black woman band director, instrumental, on both sides of the state line. And number two, I had my band, Fluky Nasties in the Soul Patrol, where it's lead by a woman. I'm not a singer, but instrumentalist where we're performing weekly, you know, at different places, and so, and just having that acknowledgement. So I don't know, it's still a struggle. I'm still climbing. I'm still trying to, you know, figure it out.
What I love about what every one of you said right here, I specifically said race. I specifically said race. It has never failed, and I knew it was going to happen. It has never failed that question among artists has never been one of, yeah, they trying to hold us down. It has never been that with musicians. It's always been recognizing the obstacles and knowing that music would take them over it.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm really impressed with the way that went down because you can have all kinds of experiences. I've had experience. I don't sing, I don't play an instrument. I have an incredible love for the things that you guys do. So I sacrifice to be certain that it's always there. Thus, I get treated differently because I've been told, what right do I have to do that? Well, I'm a human being that feeds and literally thrives off of what all of you do. And if I can't feed and thrive off of that, I die too. Okay, so I can't afford to let that happen. So I'm the person who's out here who's doing this and looking at that and pulling up stuff and filling out applications and putting out contracts. But with that, whose responsibility is it? Okay, this is really going to be the bridge we cross over, y'all. Okay, whose responsibility is it to get this building, this music strategy done? Do we keep going to the top and keep hearing the same thing from the people who will not understand what this is, or doesn't want to hear what this is because they're cronyism and oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
letting me
Thank you so much. Thank you, God. Whose responsibility is it? Okay? How are we going to go to these people and say, from now on, y'all, okay, y'all gonna listen to the things that we have to do to get us a music strategy? What does that mean? We have gone to the city and asked them for a number of dollars from here to start developing the program, start developing the music strategy. We have actually tomorrow, April 14th, will be the professional that we've asked to come on board, Shane Shapiro, to guide us internationally through this. We've got about 19, how many people have signed up, Jacob? Is he there?
All Australians.
Okay. We've got quite a few people who've signed up around the world to hear about this because they want to support Kansas City in building this strategy because they see that feeding off of us thrives and makes them thrive too, because we are the epicenter of the jazz that they love so much. So with that, whose responsibility do you think it will be from here? Do we trust other folk in saying what they'll do or not, or do we just steamroll?
We steamroll.
Okay. That was the Yeah, go ahead. We tried.
I was just saying, we already tried, it didn't work, we had to steamroll it.
You know, it's time. With all that you've seen today, do you think we got enough to steamroll?
Yes. It's the same thing with we are fighting right now for our rights with as being a music producer and a writer. We're not getting paid what we're providing. We're providing services to anything, every platform, for social media, whether it be movies, whether it be commercials, and we're getting pennies on the dollar. Mm-hmm. And we have to fight. And if we don't, they're going to continue. Spotify's going to continue taking the money. These labels are going to continue taking the money, and we're not going to eat off of it. And they're going to be like, "Thank you. Keep giving it. Keep being creative. We'll keep taking it until we stand up and say no more."
Yeah. Well, this is today.
And I think too that there are so many music organizations out there that are representing components of a music ecosystem that they all need to be brought into an umbrella to march to the Capitol steps if that's what we got to do.
Yeah. We'll march with a band.
Yeah.
We've only got a few minutes for a few questions. I know you guys got something.
Well, sorry, I had a comment, but it's not really a question. Just on the advocacy. So I'm Alex Mallett. I work for Folk Alliance International, and we're based here in Kansas City.
Hi, hey.
So one thing that I wanted to say on a positive note is that at this moment, because of the Shuttered Venue Operating Grant, saved a lot of venues and a lot of art professionals. There's an advocacy window opening up. The door is just cracked right now, but it's the first and the largest example of cash infusion into the entertainment industry of all time, and it just happened. And it happened on both sides of the aisle, which we all know how rare that is these days. So there is a moment now for advocacy that I think is pretty unprecedented, and I think finding ways to kind of bring that energy into our political systems. there's things that can happen and will happen.
Oh, absolutely. You
So
have to be
sorry, I just
insistent.
wanted to share that. I was thinking about what Jill was
We
saying.
must be insistent. There cannot be any more of this, come to the meeting for the sake of being in the meeting. Getting your, I call them chicken wing parties.
All right.
Oh, did you get your chicken wing? Yeah, I got my chicken wing. So what are we gonna do now? Go ahead, Patrick.
And I'm just so honored today. I mean, this is awesome. Freaking great. And, I'm down with the steamrolling strategy, and I hear you about meetings. I just keep going back to what you all are saying about education. And I just gotta believe, as a former educator, that's where it starts.
Yes.
Who doesn't like music and value it? And so I think sometimes what we do in this city is we start going to the same philanthropic organizations.
Mhm.
And I know Mayor Lucas has got a lot on his plate. I get it. But we start expecting, maybe not cash, but it's like, how do we get the commerce involved here? How do we get our Chamber of Commerce to sit down and hear some of these numbers you've thrown out, hear from people in all different occupations, including the school district, like we're providing instruments. Families want these things for their children. Families come down to the foundation and and they see this. I never knew about this place. It's like, it's not just about making money, it's about growing it and providing artists in whatever realm of the industry and profession they're in a living wage. You know what I mean? So we don't bleed talent. And I just think that, the steamroll is great, but you've got to have some sort of person that has dedicated time to do that, to lead, delegate, go Anita, go. And make it happen.
I will do it. That's what I'm dedicated to.
I have questions. I'm also a former educator. I'm actually one of the former charter school principals in the area, so I'd love to talk about that, but the ecosystem and think about how to be better with it. I have so many questions. I'm also a Wyandotte guy.
Yeah.
I want to talk some Wyandotte. You're also Wyandotte?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk. Okay. But I would love to get into the weeds. I'm curious, with all the real world learning in Kansas City and that work, how, because you kind of alluded to all of the different professional skills in the field, right? And I think you're absolutely right, that education is it, right? When people learn something early on, they value it the rest of their lives, they're more willing to spend money on it, all of that stuff. How is that that's been happening in a lot of people outside of education in Kansas City don't know about real world learning and what's going on with Kauffman Foundation, that effort. How is that affecting the work you're doing, leading the work in KCPS?
I mean, it's actually helping to enhance what we're doing. So we have the Career Technical Education, CTE, and that's at Manual Tech. And we do have broadcasting classes there. They get a separate pool of funding. And so they are helping us with these, with the music technology component. They're also helping with some of my health classes to get the student certifications before they graduate. And they do take the real world classes. We have this summer we have a lot of experiences on field trips and social justice projects that actually start in elementary school, because we really want our children to have a well-rounded education. And it's part of the Blueprint 2030 and how we are going to just elevate what we're doing in Kansas City public schools and for our community. And it's for the kids there now, and it's for kids to come back home to the district, and get the quality education.
And what you're saying about the real world learning is, and with my audio engineering class that I'm doing, it's certified. It's through UCM. They certified it. The kids will be walk off as certified engineers. They'll go on Pro Tools website to be engineers. And I'm battling with the board to approve it. Something that the kids want to do. I'm over here. I canceled my trips from LA. I'm like, this is where I want to be. I'm a guy who left to come back, and I'm with the board members that are blocking this because they don't understand. Well, we can put money. I said, you're putting money in everything else, but what the kids want to do. And I get calls from parents. I get calls from these students. I'm getting text messages. I'm getting emails from everywhere. Like, what is going on with the class? And the real world in the field, and real world learning, I'm like, I'm trying to apply something that I know students want to do. And so, but it's like, when we say that, let's get with the educators, and I want it because education is it. I want to be able to teach what I know. Well, Craig Lindsay taught me, to all these other guys who instilled this stuff in me, so they don't have to be in debt. Going to a full sale, $50,000 in debt, and now they're stuck trying to figure their way out. I'm saying we can give them that kind of education here, but they're battling and fighting us. So,
Okay, so my question is that, I mean, we all know what we want and need to be, but how do you change, and this is such a cliche, how do you change the hearts and minds of the patrons?
Yeah.
How do you get those people invested? How do you get those people to say, yes, I want my tax dollars to go here? They don't, we need to educate the public, and that is such a hard thing to do, and I work with the Ballet Theater, we've got a long ways to go to get things right for us, and to get patrons to come to shows that they'd never want to come to before. How do you do that?
You know-
I mean, to get money in education, you have to get parents to say, you know what, my kid learning guitar in school is really a great thing. They have more of a chance to go somewhere than playing football.
Yeah.
The other thing is that what I've noticed works, and what was been working for us in Unesco as we began to, you know, bring an awareness of what we're doing, is showing somebody what somebody else got versus what you do. Okay, compare and contrast is a beautiful way to present something.
It is.
Okay, beautiful way. Okay, look what they've got in Nashville. Nashville just got the African American Music Hall of Fame. We can't get this little thing off the ground. And then people start looking like, oh, really? Yeah. New York just sent $125 million directly into the hands of their musicians. Let's see. How does that look for us? You know, the economy of New Orleans for their music strategy is X amount of bop, 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 bop compared to us. You know, when you do a compare and contrast and you're able to get out there and show them the potential that we have though, because we've got everything they've got. Everything they've got.
And more.
And more. We just have to get them to see the lack of them not being able to access it and knowing it's not our fault. Pointing whose fault it is.
I would just add one layer to what you're saying, which is, you know, while I was a high school principal, the last few years I've been an educator, I'm probably the only gigging musician that's also a high school principal in town.
That's great.
And so thinking about also what does it mean to have a lifetime of music and value it, right? And to see the connection and see the value in kids learning how to harmonize with each other in a choir class. And how that leads them to being able to understand each other's emotions more in a hard conversation. And we have so few leaders that understand this in education across the board, the power of what it means beyond the entertainment, and what it means for everything else.
And that's measurable.
Couple things I wanted to touch on. We were talking about the instruments and making sure the students have what they need and stuff. A couple years ago, I was the IT lead for the Kansas City, Missouri School District, and you were talking about manual. I walked through that building. My office was in there. There's an auditorium full of instruments that everybody completely forgot about sitting there. A couple of years ago, I went to Central, I went to Paseo, I graduated from Paseo, and I brought them a curriculum for broadcasting, for audio engineering, for radio production. They laughed at me. Pandemic hit, my phone rang. Hey, all the stuff you were talking about, it matters now. Would you come show us? The Plaza Academy called me over and they said, create a curriculum. I put together an audio engineer program. I was teaching kids contracts, you know, which is the most important part of all this. Yes, make the music, be a hobbyist, enjoy yourself. But if you're gonna make money off this, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know the terminologies, you need to know your royalties, you need to know everything. That's where it starts. We don't offer any of that in any of the schools. We'll teach you how to play stuff. We might teach you how to record. We used to have one recording class in Paseo in 1998, Mr. Ransom. And if you weren't one of his favorite people in school, you didn't get in. It wasn't just you could sign up and get in. Waiting list was long, and if you weren't a favorite, it didn't happen. So if we're gonna show the kids how to make the music, we need to teach them how to own the music. And so all of this is great, but I feel like that's the seed we need to plant.
Absolutely.
The first step, music education. Yes, theory, yes, you know, instrumentation and all that, but like owning yourself, owning your business, owning your brand, trademarking your name, owning your logo, your designs, like that's all the important stuff.
But then, if I offer that,
and see, that's where we need to.
It goes back to what she was saying. We have to get the community to get on board and see the value in what that is. I see people get robbed of their publishing every day.
Every day.
Every day. And I'm like,
Charlie Parker.
yeah. I see, you know, I'll give you, I've invested in people, didn't have a contract with them, I was doing everything from my heart, lost out on $15,000. Those are the things those are hard lessons that I had to learn, but now I'm like, never again, because it's the music education. It's the business part. It's all the aspects. It's teaching it. It's all those things coincide together. So but we got to educate the people in the community that don't really understand.
I want to address the instruments. Those are not there anymore.
Oh, that's good. Did they miss something with them?
I've only been the coordinator since July 2020. Okay, so when I went in and I saw that, let me let you know what I did.
Did it hurt your heart too as well?
No, I knew a little bit about. You don't know how many rooms were in there.
Oh,
But let me let you know something. We did a district inventory assessment, and every single instrument has been assessed in the entire district. And that report was put together by 3 different vendors who went out to every single school, including Amber's school, and looked through the instruments. And we had we had charts and everything how to assess the value, and then after that, the instruments that were deemed repairable, we've been repairing and putting them back in the kids' hands. So that room doesn't exist anymore.
But it took you getting in there to get it.
It took me getting in
Okay,
there.
well, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
I want to add, we in our discussions with our network people, to the point of your business, we tell them, look, that's part of your art. When you create art, you create a spreadsheet. That's part of your art. Is that creative? And if you don't have the wherewithal to do that, learn it or get somebody close to you to help you.
Yes.
That's right.
And that's the hardest thing to get across to some of these artists, that there's somebody in your circle, in your sphere, that's willing to sit down and do this for
Most
you.
definitely.
And put your team together.
Anne Marie, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to, when we started the Kansas City Museum project, we had so many people tell us, move the museum out of the Northeast community. Move it. Move it to, move it to Crown Center. Move it to Johnson County.
Move it to the Raceway.
And
Move it to Wyandotte.
I think we have to, this museum is for the entire metropolitan area, but we are in the historic Northeast, which is comprised of 6 neighborhoods. We have a huge refugee population. So I just want us to remember that when we talk about musicians and creatives, this city is filled with creatives. And it's how are we recognizing who those creatives are? Because they're in every single one of our neighborhoods. And at the neighborhood level, I think we have to understand the identities of these neighborhoods, the resources that are in them. What about all the community centers that don't have a lot of programming? Could we be doing music programming in our community centers? What about all of the abandoned school buildings? What about all of the properties that are sitting around? Where is there a community, benefits agreement with all the investors who come into this city and take and take and take and don't give back into the community?
Don't give back anything.
So there is a lot of opportunity, but I think we also have to recognize holistically all of the cultural assets and resources and people that are here. I mean, think about the people who have brought their cultures and their music and their art with them to Kansas City recently, like in the past 5 and 10 years. But we do need strategic partnerships. The city has to get involved. Cultural institutions, education institutions. We have to steamroll, but we have to have strategic partnerships so that we can get to the residents in these neighborhoods, so that they can advocate and they can feel represented.
I guarantee you that if the community benefit is at 1% of everything that was given, they would fund it all.
Fund every dime.
I will say I appreciate what you're doing, because what the pandemic taught us all is we we all missed the factor of being entertained.
Yes, we did. I know I did.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank once again our partners, particularly this partner who's been with us since the beginning of this thing, Kansas City Museum. Thank you so much. We have recently made it to the coffers of the city, so we were putting it on the budget. How about that one? They didn't want to do that at first. I don't think they knew about it until they started getting letters from across the world saying, "Why aren't you guys doing this? We're doing it here in da." So they paid attention. This does not end here. As a matter of fact, we plan on doing something every 2 to 3 months because online is not costing us anything barely. We have wonderful partnerships where we can gather now again. We have strategic things put in place, and all goes well and the creek don't rise, and we get this rebuild dollars, then we will be moving ahead quickly with a study on the building a music strategy. If we don't get it, we will still be doing that because it only makes sense.
I have a question. For this funding for the study, is that a part of what the city's committing to? Or is it?
Is that a part of the cities?
No, or where, how is to get the study on a music strategy?
Right.
Is that a part of the city's commitment? Or are we kind of looking for
We've made the
funding
request,
for-
we haven't heard it yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
Right,
Cool.
we made the request, and
Okay.
that's only because it just wasn't on the radar.
Yeah.
You know, just like, what's a music strategy?
Yeah.
You know, why do we have to get that out? So we're hoping that get that through. But see, there also are corporations and
Yeah.
people that we're working with now that want to see this happen also.
Good.
So regardless as to what they do, we will be doing a music strategy. It might take us a little bit longer, but we're used to that. So we're dedicated to it. So that concludes what we do. Now tomorrow, if you'll go online, if you have the information that was sent on the Eventbrite, you'll be able to hit the Zoom, thank God for Zoom, and listen to Shane Shapiro, the leading ecosystem builder in the world at this point. And thanks to him, he agreed to do this for us. And then there'll be a number of countries who are music cities also, who will be tuning in to talk about what their challenges are, how we can all work together, and they specifically came together because we asked them to. So I'm very, very excited about that. But that concludes, thank you guys.